When it comes to the recently enough released high-grade Gundam Breaker BATTLOGUE kits, a lot of you guys who got them in the early releases in Target in the US told me that this was your favorite of the bunch. Now I was a little bit skeptical because once again this is one of these kind of build fighters, build divers, Gundam Breaker BATTLOGUE kits that is based on an older kit, that being the 2010 version of the high-grade 00 Quanta. But I have to say, you guys were right. This has shot to one of my favorite, probably tied with the Helios, from this line right here. Now just in case you don't know about the Gundam 00 Command Quanta, this is a really awesome concept of a kit. First off, yes, it is based on the high-grade 00 Quanta, but the overall look of this is of a classic SD Gundam, which is the Command Gundam. The color scheme, the armaments, the overall armor, everything like that has been applied to the Quanta in such a cool way that this feels absolutely nothing like a Gundam 00 kit, nor does it look like one. There's a whole lot of things to say about this kit right here, which I will say. But before I get into the review, of course, this video right here would not have been possible without those awesome people over at HobbyLink Japan. So if you do want some gunpla of your own, I will throw a link down there in the description. Now let's get right into it. So before we actually take a look at the Command Quanta itself, I'm going to talk a little bit about the build. Once again, this is heavily based on the 2010 version of the 00 Quanta, the high-grade 00 Quanta. That is a kit that I have never actually built, but from the seams of things what I'm seeing in this kit, it's not bad. We have a few more runners in here to give it the overhauled Command look, and the color scheme is completely different to anything we would have seen with any 00 kits before. But there is one thing I will mention about this kit if you do plan to build one of your own, and that is the dark green plastic and the green plastic is very bad for marking. So you have to be very careful while cleaning this up. I highly recommend either getting yourself a side cutter like the God Hand, or even trying something like Gun Primer's Racer, especially the Racer Pro. This will get rid of those nubs entirely. I used that on a lot of this kit after I noticed it was nubbing up, and it cleans them up perfectly. But if you are just working with a standard nipper, keep in mind you may need some kind of file or something to finish it all off in order to keep it as clean as possible. So jumping right on into the aesthetics with the full 360-degree spin, and I have to say I'm in love with the overall look of this kit. If you like your kits militaristic, heavily armed, and heavily armored, this might be one that you want. There's a lot of nice additions to this that really do separate it from the standard Quanta, and I always felt that the SD designs that are out there, like the Command Gundam and a lot more, are underutilized when it comes to actually full-sized, full-proportioned Gundams. We do get to see some every now and then when it comes to the Robot Damashi line, but never really much when it comes to high-grade. This isn't necessarily a high-grade Command Gundam, but I love what they did. I'd like to see more SD, high-grade hybrids like this in the future. It looks great. Anyway, let's jump on in for a closer look. So now jumping in a little bit closer to take a look at the details, and what they've done here absolutely blows me away. First off, you can see the Quanta in there. If you're familiar with the high-grade Quanta and you get in real close, especially from the side, you can definitely see the Quanta elements. But the layered up armor, the change in the color of the GN condensers, and just all of the extra Command Gundam stuff really gives this a completely different feel. One awesome element about this kit's design is that big, what I can only describe as GN condenser or lens up on the right hand shoulder. Now this is actually the GN condenser segment from the Quanta's chest that has been repurposed into this segment here, which I can only assume is meant to emulate the eyepiece we would have seen originally on the Command Gundam, which I assume was for using the missile pod up on the shoulder. And I can't mention the missile pod and gloss over it because I am impressed. I expected those red missiles to be stickers. They usually are in kits like this. Those are color separated and color separated very nicely. We do have some stickers on this. The only real color correcting ones we have are the ones on the fronts of the feet, but those are blocked most of the time by the big yellow armor, and the rest are just for the eyes, the lenses, and the little stickers underneath the GN condensers that reflect the light out in a very beautiful kind of way. Honestly, this is impressive. This kit features some seriously nice color separation and a nice layout of colors. It all just sits so well. The red recessed into those heavily armored knees, the detail we have on those armored section on the knees, shoulders, and chest, We've got asymmetrical arms, which is always a very nice touch. And what I'm the most impressed about on this particular kit is the new head. Now this is a 100% new head, and what that means is there is a fully leftover Quanta head in here too. That is what it looks like with that head attached. Of course, there is no stickers for these eyes, but when you actually take a look at the Command Quanta head then, the detail here is crazy. Nice layering in the segment towards the front of the head. This is a beautiful kit. So now jumping into the accessories, and the Command Quanta right here has pretty much the full regular Gundam loadout plus a little more. So that is a close range weapon, a mid-range weapon, as well as a shield. On top of that, there is a little more to all of this equipment, and we do have an extra hand in here, which is always a big plus. Let's check them all out one at a time. When it comes to the close range weapon we have in here, this is the Command Sword. According to the instructions, this is a large physical sword that is mounted on the backpack. It can be used to slice targets as a sword or cleave enemies like a hatchet. So as this kit right here is based on the high-grade 00 Quanta, this is a variant of the Quanta's GN Sword 5. So in this kit, instead of having translucent plastic like we would have seen in the Quanta, this kit actually features somewhat of an almost odd rubbery plastic. This is something I've never seen before. Might be something to do with the kind of molds that they have for the green plastic not working with regular plastic, but it is floppy. But it holds its shape, usually a little bit shiny too. And just for those curious, this whole runner did come too, so you do have all of those other blades as well if you want to do something custom-wise or something similar. Again, all a kind of rubber, so I'm not sure how this will be for painting. Attaching this into the hand is simple. It just slides on into either of the holding hands just like so, and when this is not in use, it has a peg round back, which allows it to be attached on the rear of this big old GN condenser segment up on the backpack mount. The mid to long range weapon we have in here is the heavy machine gun. Once again, back to the manual, it says this is the main weapon of this gunpla. It has excellent suppression abilities. A blade for close combat is attached to the bottom of the barrel. To me, this is an absolutely awesome looking machine gun design. I absolutely adore this. The magazine up top looks great. It can't be removed, of course. And the fact that they've adapted the second GN drive from Gundam 00 Quan to be its sight. So usually that would have been up in the 00 Quant's shield up in its shoulder, but it's been repurposed here to be actually used as the sight, and that is pretty cool. The blade segment again is one of those rubbery little blades, and that would have been one of the GN bits. Once again, cool reuse of 00 Quanta's parts in here. Attaching this is simple. It's just a simple slide-in handle, can slide into either hand as usual, and when this is not in use, this can also be stored on the unit, which is great, and that can just pop into this hole round back on the backpack to be stored up there with the sword. The last of the equipment we have in here then is the arms shield. According to the instructions, this says, this is a defensive armament equipped on the left arm. A large caliber cannon is built into the back, and combat knives are stored on both sides of the shield. One awesome aspect about this particular mobile suit that I love is all of its weapons are physical. So no beam weapons on here, well, as far as I can tell, and that goes for this large caliber cannon as well. This attaches onto the arm in that usual 00 kind of way, just like the rifle we already saw. That means it clips into both the forearm and then into the hand for a nice, secure hold. This looks great. We do have the cannon underneath. We have one sticker for the lens on that. And I guess when the Command Quanta right here is out of weapons, on the sides of the shield we've got two combat knives. These pop off like so. The blades, once again, is that soft rubbery plastic, so it may be a bit of an issue if you want to paint this. And on the whole, everything in here is pretty awesome, and my favorite aspect about it all is that it can all be loaded onto the Command Quanta at the one time. That makes me happy. So now jumping on to the build and the articulation here. This is actually a rock solid build. It is a little bit springy in the way a very heavily polycapped high grade can be, but besides that, it's really nice. At the neck, we've got the typical giggity goo double ball joint polycap. This gets you basically the basic movement out of it, but everything that you'd probably be needing. At the shoulder then, this is aligned front to back, so it can move forward and back just like so. It raises up to just under parallel to the ground. We have the full 360 spin at the upper arm, a single point bend at the elbow, which is a little bit limited, but we do have a secondary bend up at the wrist, which gives you a little bit more. We've got a typical ball joint wrist, Moving down to the ab zone now, there isn't really anything in a front to back crunch or side to side crunch. All you're really going to be getting here is the rotation. When we move down to the skirting armor, the front skirting could be a little bit better. This just has one ball joint to rule them all, and that kind of just moves it around at that point. When you get to the side skirts, these are the most likely to fall off. They're a very old school style side skirt, and when we get around to the back, we've got a paralyzed, not so premium butt flap. So getting to those kicks, and this is where I'm going to mention that front skirting again. Because of this awkward design, it does mean that it does block the kick up to the front. For example, when it comes to some poses like crouches, this really gets in the way, which is a little sad. You can see when I pop this off, you can actually get a full crouch out of it, or when you try to kick the leg up, you can get that full kick. When this is attached, it does kind of get in the way and send the leg outwards a bit when you're kicking it up. As for the side-to-side kick, we do get the full splits in here, and out to the back, not too bad. We've got a full spin at the upper thigh. When it comes to the bend at the knee, this one is a little unique. So we do have a 2-point bend here, but the armor around back kind of blocks it. So we can get this if we just kind of bend it as is. We've got a moving knee armor, but we do have a joint up top that didn't bend that time. So basically you can kind of choose how much of the upper bend to bend and how much of the lower bend to bend, because in a way, this back armor is going to block it to some degree either way. However, the moving knee armor is quite nice. The armor segment on the back of the leg that can actually be moved up and down just like this. We've got another piece of armor, which is this yellow part that can pivot up and down just like so. And when it comes to what we've got down at the ankle, we've got a hinge up top, a side-to-side pivot, and we have full rotation of that foot. Finally, then getting that foot in the ground to test out the functional movement. There it is all the way to the front. There it is all the way to the back. And as for the side-to-side pivot, this can pretty much lie flat on the ground. Nothing down at the foot though. Finally, round at the backpack, both sides can pivot on an axis. So we have the lens section that can move back and forth like this, and then the missile pod section can move back and forth like so. This missile pod has a whole bunch of smart articulation. It can tilt back, it can rotate at 2 different points to make it aim any way you want it to. Up, down, left, right, you've got it. And to make matters even better, you can actually move it all back in a way that it's tucked out of the way like so. We'll mention though we do have some hollow parts here left over from the 00 Quanta, but on the whole, that looks beautiful. When it comes to the articulation, on the whole, this is one of those kits that actually can pull off more than the individual joints lead you to think it will do. So posing this is a lot of fun, even though some parts are a little bit limited by the bulk of the armor, but hey, it's a bulky Gundam, it's something that you'd expect. The high-grade 00 Command Quanta is one hell of a kit, and to me, this is gold tier. It takes 2 absolutely awesome mobile suits and slaps them together. That is the SD Command Gundam and the high-grade 00 Quanta. If you like militaristic Gundams, then the aesthetics of this will definitely appeal to you. It's got that low-key militaristic green, but it has some nice detailing and highlights on it to make it all pop. The detailing is great, especially on the 100% new for this year head, and considering that this is based on a 12-year-old kit, this is impressive. The old parts hold up well, and the new parts really gel perfectly with them. All of the new equipment does mix in some of the old parts too. It's all very cool, and the best aspect is it can all be attached onto the mobile suit at the same time. This is a phenomenal high grade and one I highly recommend. It doesn't do anything new or fantastic, but does everything it needs to do perfectly. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks to HobbyLink for sending this on to me. And as always, make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, this video and none of these videos would be possible without each and every one of you watching these videos, including those of you who are supporting me on the channel memberships and over on Patreon, including VanFon, Org59061, Lawrence Seahack, Kill Me Inc., Joseph Kukluk, Joe, Gunpla UK Limited, Global Frequency Studios, Forsetti, Caleb Engelhart, and Craig Jerry.